So welcome dear students. Today is 9th October 2020 and I will deal with the second paper of population studies, and the first unit is population theories. So I will begin with the theory of Malthus, because as you know that Malthus was the father of population studies, and that's why we have to start with the Malthus, and because Malthus established the very core principle of population. And when you see in this chart, you can see why Malthus theory is important. Because in this human population growth chart, you can see in x-axis, earlier in the beginning of the humanities, there was no population problem, there was no land problems, and this world food delivery system train was running very smoothly till the end of 19th century. Then in the 19th century, when industrial revolution was there, population growth begins, and then this train started humping, and there the problem exists after that. And then you can see that population explodes after the industrial revolution. Okay, so this, under this background, the core principle of Malthus established. And what Malthus said? He said, and he assumed, that food is necessary for human existence, number one. And number two, human population tends to grow faster than the power in the earth to produce subsistence. Okay. And thirdly, he make a solution in this assumption, said the effects of these two unequal powers must be kept equal. So these basic core terminologies is a very important one. Everyone knows that food is necessary, and at the time of Malthus was concerned of the growing population. So he said that human population tends to grow faster than the earth produce subsistence. This is an alarming situation told by the Malthus, and then only he urged that the effect of these two unequal powers must be kept equal, and that is the solution one. Okay, and you all know that Malthus theory of population growth was come in 1798, when Malthus published his views on the effect of population on food supply. And his theory has two basic principles, and this is the core theory of the Malthus. First is, population grows at a geometric progression or geometric rate, that is 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. And the food production increases at an arithmetic rate, that is arithmetic progression, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. So this is two things he believed while establishing his principle. And then Malthus theory assumed that the human population would continue to grow geometrically, and also he assumed that the food production would grow arithmetically. And due to diminishing marginal returns, it may be also less than arithmetically. Because dear students, you know, you can see in y-axis there is output, x-axis there is input. When you see the arithmetic progression is like this, diagonally is increasing the food production. But due to diminishing return, this graph may be like this also. You can see this is this one. So in long term, maybe the food production may be also less than arithmetically. This was Marshall's theory. Okay, and then here comes the Malthusian catastrophe. You can see this is a blue one is a food supply, and this pink one is a population growth. Food is growing arithmetical progression, and by time population is growing geometrical progression, and this is the turning point where population growth is cutting the food production. And then Malthus used to say that this is controlled by war, famine or disease. To avoid this, he also produced certain criteria, and then he said that the consequences of these two principles is that eventually population will exceed the capacity of agriculture to support the new population numbers. Population would rise until a limit to growth was reached, and further growth would be limited when there is a preventive checks. And what he said about the preventive checks? Preventive checks is postponement of marriage that will lower the fertility rate and increase the cost of food. This was Malthus' views. And then he said that if we will not proceed on preventive checks, then there would be positive checks, and that is more bad. What is positive checks? Then Malthus said, then the positive checks is famine, war, disease. These would increase the death rate. So Malthusian ideas are often supported by Western governments because it highlights the problem of too many mouths to feed rather than the uneven distribution of resources. So this is a very, very basic theory of the population which you should understand. And when we I will try to explain this theory, you can see that in this graph, this is a population, y-axis is a population, denotes population, and x-axis denotes time, and population is increasing as earlier I told you in geometrical progression, and this is the carrying capacity, maximum limit of resources you have in a special countries. So what Malthus said, that population grow geometrically, this is exceeding the population, is creating the problem, and then there will be through check, there is a population is kept in check through preventive and positive checks. So this graph shows entire theory of Malthus. Then if you will exceed after the carrying capacity, there will be problem, there will be population explosion, and that if you will not prevent it, then it will be checked by the disease, famine or wars. So Malthus cautions us to control the population for the sake of development. Okay, and we all know that in the prior time there is a diminishing returns exist in the agriculture sector, and also Malthusian said that population control through mortality if you will not aware of this, and hence only the checks to the population is the measurement. That is, failing any other check, population will eventually be checked by the difficulty of substitutions of the positive checks, and the positive check works by increasing mortality rates, that is poor health, disease, infant mortality. And positive checks can only be avoided by preventive checks. And at present you can see that preventive checks works by reducing birth rates, economic incentives to later marriage and moral measurement. And thus Malthus stresses the positive checks. So that's why in the today's situation you can see that if we have to check the population in the present circumstances, we should empower the poor. We should stress on the health and education system. We should spread the awareness program for the family planning, so that there should be less population, and hence there will be less poverty in any country. So dear students, only one thing after that, many criticize the theory of population by saying that Malthus failed to see impact of industrial revolution on food production. Yes, it's okay, but this is not term failed, because due to Malthus development proceeds, due to Malthus development story begins, due to Malthus human invention and innovations took place, and they produced more, they worked on agriculture, they innovate on agriculture, they increase the irrigation facility, and hence existence subsistence rises. So this is criticism, but this was also the solution in the name of Malthus. So failed to see impact of industrial revolution is the criticism of Malthus, and also Malthus failed to see the opening of new lands, and also critics said then Malthus failed to anticipate falling of fertility rates, because you see what Malthus believed was this: the population is greater than food production, but what actually world due to industrial revolution and in agricultural revolution does, that food production exceeds the population. So this is just reverse to the Malthus theory, but this is not the way only to criticize the Malthus, but this we can say that due to the cautions of Malthus, this happens. Because what Neo-Malthusian says, that was Malthus right? So there has been a population explosion. We also experienced in the early 70s in a country like India, and we can see in Africa that there are repeated famines, wars, food crisis, environmental degradation, soil erosion, crop failure, and disastrous floods. So was he right? This will be always questioned. So before criticizing the Malthus, we should see around the world and realize that there will be always Malthus if there will be inequality, if there will be poverty, if there will be illiteracy in any country. So thank you, dear students. Take care of yourself. See you later on.